So writing task one, generally, what you're gonna see is something like this line graph. You may see a bar chart, yeah, where we have like kind of cubes. You may see pie charts, which are circles, whatever. So generally, writing task one is statistics. Present it in the picture, and you are given 20 minutes. Usually, it's recommended to spend 20 minutes to write at least 150 words of report. So writing task one is a report. What is report? What do you know about report?
It's like just like interpreting information that you already have, like kind of in a structured way, organized, structured way.
Exactly. Right. So here, based on what you said, we don't add anything personal. It's only what is given to us. Right? So I see the picture, I'll only describe what I see on the picture. That's it. So you don't say, okay, well, I think based on these information. No, you just write what you see. This is the main principle here. Unlike in essay you base the whole writing only on your opinion. Right? And here, you better not to exceed the time limit of 20 minutes. They will not give you exact limit, You will have just 60 minutes overall for 2 words, but it's highly recommended. That's 20 minutes because then you start stealing your time from the second part to write it. Okay, so here it is. Well, and at this point today, generally this week, and maybe the next week as well, we're gonna talk about these kind of graph, like when we have different timelines. So I would call it the graphing a trend because there is a trend in the 15 minute timeline. Uh-huh. Right. Well, so later on we will discuss comparative graphs which are static, so it's not moving, just 2 years, like you compare, or we will also discuss before after. But these weeks, again, we are discussing these kind of graphs as you see on the picture, and there will be a particular vocabulary that you will learn to describe these kind. Right. Now let's talk about the structures. Structure all the same for any graph that you have. No matter what picture you have, you always follow the same structure. Okay. So what do we have here? First of all, yeah, the first sentence. You can take notes if you need. Okay. By the way, I barely hear you.
How about now?
Yeah, now it's better. So yeah, the first sentence and your first paragraph, which is just one sentence, will be introduction. So you introduce what you see on your picture. How it's done? Usually, you just paraphrase your task. This part of the task where you have all the data. So you just read it, understand what's on your picture, then you look through the picture because there might be something that is not mentioned. For example, I don't know, maybe what you can say, maybe the units. Like here you see yearly income in, well, it's not visible here, but these are all. All right. You can also mention that. So in introduction, you basically introduce everything so that your reader who will read your writing, they will know what is going on, what picture you had, without even looking at the picture. They will already know what we're gonna work in.
Mhm.
So at this point, you make sure you just didn't miss anything.
Mhm.
And why we paraphrase? Why we just don't write the same thing? Because by paraphrasing, you explain that you understood what's your task and you are able to process it and say your own words.
Mhm.
So this is the purpose of the introduction. Okay. So next paragraph is overview. In overview, yeah, this is very important, super important part. In overview, you write general picture. You don't write about details. What I mean, you ignore all the numbers. So if you see any numbers, any years, you ignore them. You just say what you see without without numbers.
Okay, so it's like I just generally describe it without details, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like this. So generally for this graph in particular, I mean for a line graph with a graph with a trend where you have a timeline, you would generally go with this. So you may write about those things, those lines which go up and down. So this is the first thing that kind of just jumps into your eyes.
Mhm.
Right. So you basically write about those things which are very obvious. You don't have to like search something, much to detail. Right. This is the first thing. Usually just what goes up, what goes down. Just write about this. The next thing that you may write about is about leaders, like top bottom. For example, on this picture, you see that for, let's say, the blue one. Yeah, for now I'll just refer to colors, but in your writing you will not say about colors. You will just say like what is it, not the color. So I can say the blue one was the highest, yeah, in terms of the income, in terms of the earnings, but by the end of the period, it was substituted by the red one. So this way, kind of, and you will generally say, okay, some of them they grew in income, while others they had a decline in income, something like this. Generally. Mhm. And here you just have to write also not many sentences. There must be like two, and they might be complex ones. Here it's easy to make complex sentences.
Is it like both for introduction and overview, or just the overview?
Overview just. Oh, so we're done with introduction. Yeah, overview is just general picture. You may give like two sentences about it. So that your reader will read your overview and they can already make a draft of the graph.
Mm-hmm.
So it shouldn't be very accurate, but still it should be clear. It's not like, okay, there is a graph and everything is changing. Well, if it's changing, I have no idea how exactly, right? So at this point, that's why we say about the direction of your change. Is it up or down? Is it stable or not? Or something like that. Okay. One more important point about the overview is that it helps you to plan how will you describe your details.
Mm-hmm.
For example, if here you decided that, okay, in overview, I said that there are two things which are going up and while other is going down. Same way, I continue in my details. So in details, it's recommended that I usually have two paragraphs, logically divided. So, and there should be always logic. Why? I divide it that way. At this point, if in your overview, you wrote about going up, then something going down, same way you continue. You put your first paragraph of details. You put the information that you said going up, so you describe those graphs which are going up. And the next detailed paragraph you say about the rest. So let's say going opposite. Do you see what I mean?
So as I understood, it's like in the overview, it's like I introduce my ideas, right? Like what I see, like in general, the as you said, the direction of the change. And in the details part, I just develop those two ideas that I gave in the overview, right?
Exactly, right. So as much as it's possible, right? So sometimes, yeah, I mean, in other kind of graphs, yeah, it might be different a little bit, but generally, yeah, try to follow this principle. This is not so obvious. Not many people talk about it, but this is the key part to have higher score because this way your parts of your writing will be more logically connected.
Yeah, I see now. Yeah, it looks like convenient though. The structure
Right.
to it.
Actually, it is convenient, and this way you have a plan
Yes.
that you
Okay.
follow.
Mhm.
Because if you Google like writing task one model concept of band 8, 9, they will be very easy to read because
Mm.
it's easy to follow them because everything is connected and it's clear why the writer decided to put it like that. So this way you check yourself. If you wrote something that is barely understandable even for you, like why it's so or it's very messy, we are jumping from one feature to another, then it's not gonna score a good grade. Okay, here it is. Right, let's continue. Let's continue. And at this point, this is the structure that you follow for every graph. Every graph. Right. So now let's continue. And for this particular graph, let's look at these three statements and decide if they are true or false about the pictures.
Okay. Should I read them right now?
Okay.
There was an upward trend in the income of Bernese bonds over the period. It's true.
Mm-hmm. Barron response, the one which is green.
Oh my God, it's green. Just give me a second. It's not visible. Yes, it's
This
true.
one,
It's
yes,
it's
this
true.
is true. There is an upward trend, so it goes up. This is obvious, and this is what you can write in your overview. See, no details, just general vision of how it's going on with this one. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
how about the second?
The earnings of Robbie's Bakery fluctuated significantly between 2000 and 2005. Robbie's, it's the red one. So fluctuated, is it like going up or going down? It's going down, right?
It's both actually. This is
Yeah.
up and down, yeah, being unstable to fluctuate.
Then it's not true. It's false. Yeah, it's an upward trend.
Right. So here we see that it is stable. Roby's Bakery, yeah, the red one. And this one is stable for the given period. Well, at this point, the right year is mentioned, but this is a half of the period. So at this point, it's
Now I see.
okay. If it's really visible big, you can also include it in your overview, but it's not necessary. This one is not necessary, the second. First is absolutely necessary to say. Right, but hold on a second. You can refer, if you're worried about saying numbers in your overview, you can just refer to them as part, first or part or half of the period.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me take a note then. So it's an overview part. The income of Lovely Love saw a considerable decline over the decade. So it's the blue one. It's a considerable decline. Can I consider this as a considerable decline? I mean, I can say that it did decrease, but is it like that dramatic to say to call it like a considerable decline?
Okay, that's a good question. So here in overview, we will write always these adjectives, adverbs to make it clear how the degree of change. And at this point in overview, look, how do you write just generally about it? You look at the first point, the beginning and end, and you compare. So at this point, we see that there is a like it gets twice less as it was. It was 18, now it's 48. Do you think it's a little one?
Yeah, I mean, no, it is a
No.
considerable decline.
Yeah,
Yes.
so this is how you say, because many people say, for example, the green one, if we compare green and let's say red one, they both go up, right? And they kind of have like big increase, even though the green one looks a bit smoother, it's still big. Yeah, like plus how much? Plus
14?
40. Yeah, plus
Yeah.
40. And if you look at, oh, and red one actually it is also plus 40. So this way, you see, it might be visually not that obvious and might look very different. But if you just compare begin and end, you see, oh, it's actually big.
Okay.
Right.
So can I say that, for example, if it's changed, I mean, if it's the twice the amount of at in the end than at the beginning, then I can already consider this as a considerable decline. And if
Yes.
it's less, then it's not that, like, it's not a big deal, right?
Yeah, so at this point you
Kinda.
decide it's very, it's very personal how
Yeah.
to
So yeah,
say
that's
this.
why I guess it's
Yes.
a lot of questions occurred
For
here.
considerable, I think it's fine, even though it might be moderate one. Still, it's applicable to say considerable, right? But you look at the scale. For example, if it goes like, if we talk about this scale, right, on the picture, it goes like every step is 20,000. Yeah, it might be big, but for this one, it's not that big. Yeah, 20, it's not that much. But at this point, you look at the scale. For example, for this 140, it's big, right? But if we talk about millions, then it will not be big. Then you choose another word like slide or gradual if it goes to step by step. Mhm. Well, we will discuss all these words and you're gonna learn them so that you will have that variety to choose from.
Okay, good.
Okay, so here it is. So basically, how you look at each graph is this way. Even though it might be, for example, if we look at the blue one, it goes up just like maybe two times over all the period, but it's still a decline. This is also important because some people say, okay, it was a fluctuation. Well, it was, you can say, but it will be more accurate to say that it went down generally. Because this is more, by saying that, you show your ability to analyze the general data, like to generalize it. So, well, in IELTS writing does one in particular, It's very important for you to group similar data and group similar changes.
Mm-hmm.
If you start describing every single curve, or like
Mm.
every single change, that
Yeah, I wanted to ask. So you said that on the in the overview part, you'd like just generally describe it, right? So, for example, here we can see like three. What do you call those?
3 lines.
Yes, three lines. So is it okay for me to, in the overview part, just like generally describe these three of them, for example?
Yeah, so you try to cover in your overview, try to cover as much as you can, and it ideally to cover it all, but in a find the way which will be the shortest, but will cover the most. It's
Uh,
it's not like you just say, okay, something increased, and you never mention, but what decreased, and how about the third line?
mhm. So, like, how many lines do we usually have? I mean, as I noticed, it's like three or this three, right?
Well, there is no standard. It might be five, might be more than
Yeah.
that.
So, for example, if I have like five or more than that, then in which of them should I focus on?
Um,
Probably in the most like the ones that had a big change.
Not really. You have to just group several several ones into one. For example, saying that okay, these there are three things which increased while the rest decreased.
Mm,
The only one
mm-hmm,
exception was the one which did not change at all. Let's say, for
mm,
example.
mm-hmm,
And then we just go the same way because otherwise, you see, imagine you have like five or more lines. You just don't group them first. If you don't group them and you start writing about each of them in your overview, it's getting too
yeah.
detailed.
Yes. Mm-hmm,
But if you skip some of them, and we said this like overview is like your plan, then in details you are risking to miss them as well.
mm-hmm.
This is the problem. Okay, so that is why we group so that we make sure that we didn't leave out anything.
Okay.
Right. So let's move on. And here let's start with introduction. How do we paraphrase it? So here, even without the picture, we're able to practice the skill. Let's take a look. We've given a task. The first line is what we need. The second line, the summarize, the information, it will be always here. Always. Yeah. Just we now focus on the first one. And we need to paraphrase it. Here you're given two examples of how we can do that. We just need to complete till the end. Okay. So what do you think is missing here?
How many people visited Australia over an 80-year period between? Yeah.
Okay. So here, let me highlight this one. So you say it's not about searching for synonyms, especially fancy ones. Introduction shouldn't be too fancy. You just paraphrase. You can even use some simple phrases, just like this. Visitors, it means how many people visit. That's
Mm-hmm.
enough. Well, you can just extend some of the options in that over an 8 year period so that you kind of give more information into that. And here, you better not to write like with this hyphen. You better just put that in words between 2000 and 2008. As
Mm-hmm.
well, another option here about between, right? You can say from to,
Mm-hmm.
between and, but don't mix them up like between two or something. hmm How about the second?
And it's like the graphic data about number of people who visited Australia.
Exactly. So this way, you also give that description, even though it's little, you give that grammar range, where we have relative clause, yeah, who visited.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is always better rather than like search for that interesting synonym that you can use instead of it. Okay, so these are possible options. As well, I don't recommend to keep that word shows because it will be given to you almost always in your task.
Oh,
Shows.
it's like to use the synonyms of
Right.
the.
Here
Uh-huh.
I recommend to use synonyms, right? For example, here they used illustrate, then we have
Demonstrates.
depict, demonstrate. Well, by the way, demonstrate, I don't know, like there was some time when I've seen something about it and some people said like, oh, don't use it, demonstrate it's not right. I'm still clueless why it's not right. But
Okay.
yeah, you better be careful with that. But about this, shows, illustrates, depicts, highlights, compares. Especially these three, I like them personally. So they are very, let's say they're less common. And with the word compares, you'll be more specific about the purpose of the prompt.
Так. So like these three depicts, highlights, and compares, I guess they are slightly different in their meaning,
Yeah, they are
right?
slightly different, but they are all applicable anyway for the graph description. Yeah, because depicts is the same as shows.
Show, highlights.
Highlights.
It's like drawing attention to certain
Yes,
things.
and we can also say summarizes. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
anyway, because we see the ready statistics
Uh-huh.
visually presented to us. So I can still use that.
Um. Okay.
hmm Can we move on?
Yes.
All right. So here are the answers, and now what do we have? Let's take maybe two of them to practice. Yeah.
Mhm.
This is for introduction. I'd just like to highlight that it's important not to forget, how can I say that in good word? Okay, some people just start right away from introduction and making some silly mistakes. So please pay attention to your intro that you don't mix up how much and many, but I guess it's not a problem, and the number and amount of. What's the difference between these two?
The number and amount of.
Uh-huh.
Huh. That. Well, I guess I don't really know.
Uh-huh. Well, that's good for you that now you know. So they have the same difference as how much, how many, meaning that countable, uncountable.
Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
so be careful. Amount of you cannot say for countable. It's not
So
right.
like the number of something is for countable,
hmm
and the amount of it's uncountable. Okay.
hmm Well, let's take for example, just write one sentence probably with chocolate production in Colombia. I'm giving you now 2 minutes just to write in your copybook chocolate production Colombia. One for how much, how many, and the other is for number amount of. Okay.
Only the third one.
Yeah, the third one.
Mm.
Yeah, you can start.
So the first one, the graph depicts how much chocolate was produced in Colombia from 1997 to 2007.
Mm-hmm.
And the second one, the graph summarizes the data about the amount of chocolate that was produced between 1997 and 2007.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I am happy that you showed me the number of and the amount of, because I mean, I guess I wouldn't
Okay.
know that
Well,
myself. Okay.
and yeah, about this one, production, yeah, chocolate production, yeah, it's why I gave you this one, not the second, because second is easy. It's clearly visible that this one is countable. Yeah, DVD
Mm,
sales, so we just
mhm,
talk about DVD sold, yeah, number of
mhm,
DVD. But here, some people also want to consider it as countable, while it's not. When we don't have something like this as presented as pieces, like sugar,
mm,
whatever, yeah, if
mhm,
it's material, here it's actual material, chocolate, yeah, to make bars and whatever. But it's not mentioned what exactly. Then yes, as you did, we use it as uncountable. Just generally chocolate production. Yeah, how
mhm.
much of it was produced. Okay. Same way. One more thing I'd like to highlight at this point. When we have any countries mentioned in our introduction, we can also turn them into adjectives.
Colombian chocolate
Yeah,
production,
yes.
right? Mm,
Or like on like Colombian, I don't know, factories or something like that. Or even like if you don't use that in your intro, you can then use it in your details. Yeah, I know they don't say always Colombia, Colombia, you know. So these way, especially if you have several countries, like in the second one we have UK and
mm,
USA. So you would say, okay, while American are blah 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 blah, like in UK it was more popular, so you mix that.
mm, mhm,
This gives you points for lexical resource so that you are able to change that
mhm,
flexibly. All right, let's move on. And now, it's important that you spend a few minutes in the beginning. Once you see your graph, so you have 20 minutes to write, it's important that you plan. That you just had enough time to look at your graph. Some
mm,
people just look at the graph briefly and start writing right away. No, well, it's better to stare at your graph at least for 2 minutes, to plan how you're gonna write, what you're gonna write about, and then you start writing. Well, why? Because you just simply know now what you're going to write about, yeah, and you're not missing anything and mixing up. Because once you notice that you mixed up something, might be too late to fix it.
mm.
For example, if every single graph you've taken during your practice, or like not every, but recently before the exam, you had a lot of graphs like this, and out of nowhere you've got on your real exam, you've got this kind of graph. You
Mm-hmm.
might be mix it up a little because we've got it like the timeline is given on the vertical line, not the horizontal line.
Uh,
Yeah, so this is still the same principle here. Still the same, but just like they flipped the axis. That's it.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
All
Mm-hmm.
right. And it's important that you pay attention to these things.
Mhm.
Mm.
Okay, so as I was looking, how can I describe this tendency when at first, I mean, when the graph came back to its initial position. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, for example, here prices for a hotel in the beach. For example, in November it was like around $200, and in general it's again like
Mm-hmm. For
yeah,
both
two
of
hundred
them,
dollars.
actually, right? For beach and downtown as well.
Yes, yeah, also yeah, downtown.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, uh-huh. Just like beach prices in the beach, they just increased slightly, yes, and in the downtown they again like opposite decreased. So
Mm-hmm.
how can I describe that kind of thing?
So you see, as you notice, once you start analyzing, there are several ideas come into your mind, and something
Mm-hmm.
might be slipping. So don't write right away something that came
Mm-hmm.
to your mind because you see, you might be not noticing that. Oh, actually, downtown was also the same, right? So that's why you better write about it. Write, literally write on your plan, yeah, before you start, and then you visually see, and you can make connections. For example, if I start analyzing, yeah, you can. By the way, if you have a bar chart, like here, this is a bar chart. There are
Mm-hmm.
bars, yeah. But visually, it's more comfortable to work with line graph, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can just draw lines. Yeah, if it's possible, or just even visually, you can draw lines, and then you can see, for example, if we look at the page, yeah, it goes up. So
Mm-hmm.
I see it goes up. And here it goes like it recovered. Yeah, downtown just went back to initial point. So this way it's visually easier to process. At this point, you can also group. If you, for example, like here you have months, why not to say that like generally in winter they have the same
Mm-hmm.
maybe yeah statistics, or the most like the peak season for downtown is winter, or just cold seasons, while for the beach it's primarily something else, yeah, like mostly the warmer ones, or the
Mm-hmm.
summer season, late summer season like July and September. Well, we can kind of combine it. So in overview and generally in IELTS writing task one, it's important to stay human, like to process your data, not just like, okay, I see November, December, like that, so I write about that. Why don't you say winter, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's fine. Like it's not your personal assumption because it's literally like December is
Mm-hmm.
winter. Yeah, everybody know that. So these kind of things you use, right? And think about them. At this point for this graph, yes, first you always use that thing that we discussed, just go through this list overview. Yeah, so going up, down, then you can notice something. Like I said, top, bottom, and optionally you can say about interesting things, noticeable, out of general content. If there is something that goes out of pattern, I don't think anything that goes like out of pattern that much. But if you had one more, let's say, one more position that didn't change at all, you could write about it. Like while page increased in the price, and downtown just was rolling, was fluctuating over the period, for example. Yeah, the blah blah blah. The third category didn't change at all, and this way you put it all together. hmm Right. So let's go and see what we have to look at. So basically, categories. Yeah, it's important to look at all the categories you presented, all the teams, all the units, in order not to look. Units, it's important too, because some people just work with percents a lot, and then they said, okay, 50%, but it was like not percents, they were people, and they write, oh, 50%. So be careful with this, with units.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is what I mean. Another thing is the step. For example, here you see that how many months do we see on this period?
6 months, right?
Right.
Half of the year.
Right, but if we think about it as like continuous line, it's actually a year, right? Is it?
November. I mean, some of the months
Every
are missing, like, but
mhm.
still, right? A year.
Yeah, so are they missing randomly or there is a particular pattern?
It's like uh um a couple of months from each season,
Yes,
right?
every 2 months, right? Every 2 months. So we can actually write about that in intro. Like the graph highlights or compares the price change between beach and downtown hotels in every 2 months over a year. That's it. Yeah. So even though it's never mentioned that it's 2 months, but you can see that from the picture. This is what I said.
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
You not only just paraphrase the task that was written, like the graph shows or the graph below shows, blah blah blah. You also look at the picture, what you can fish from there.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. This way you will have full introduction. It's not just like plain paraphrasing.
Well, I guess it takes some time to practice, right?
Yeah,
Like, I
sure.
didn't even notice that, actually. Okay.
So yeah, it's very important to train your attention at this point. Yeah, because at this point we have just two categories. But what if they have like 5 bars?
Mm.
Yeah, it will be much harder. But anyway, yeah, just we always trying to group. We always try to simplify that for ourselves, right? And it's important that you always identify what are your keywords from the question. For example, here's average price for hotel room. You always think how you will paraphrase. You can even write yourself several options and then use them throughout your writing in detail, in overview, everywhere.
Uh-huh.
For example, average price. How you can paraphrase this one.
Can I use the word approximate, or is it a bit different?
Approximate, it's a bit different.
Average price. Maybe standard price?
Standard price, right? Maybe general price, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because these are different hotels, generalize and put on the graph, most probably. Not just one hotel, right? Same way here. How much money people paid for their stay at beach hotel, yeah, or the room in a hotel like located in a downtown, something like this. It might take too many words, but it will be easy to say and explain and understand.
Mm-hmm.
So here it is. Because some people literally say try so hard just to paraphrase using synonyms. Sometimes it's impossible.
So it's like I need to use not the synonyms, but just like different structures, but the same words, right?
Yes, you can use synonyms if it's possible, right? Like price, cost, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
cost, money, whatever. But if there is no synonym coming to your mind, don't waste your time with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Of course, if it's your homework and if you see that obviously there must be some synonym, but I forgot, you may Google it. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so or like Google it after you finish and then you add it to your vocabulary list. By the way,
Mm-hmm.
reminder, yeah, write every writing task once. Yeah, I also add some visual effects
Oh,
for
okay.
those who gonna watch this in this recording as well. Yeah, so please always remember every practice you take, every practice I give you for writing task one, I'll try to give you a variety of different topics. One day you will have like transport, another day it's about oh bless you, about
Oh, thank you.
oil, yeah, production of
Mm-hmm.
something. Always, if you feel that after you finish your writing that you have some improvement or that you have to have some improvement on your vocab, go search. Take some like 2 minutes to Google and write down right after your writing the list, little
Mm-hmm.
list of vocabulary that will be useful for you later. Because who knows? Today you had not enough words to say about hotel room, but what what if on your real exam you gotta have the same topic and you remember, oh my god, I had this practice and I also had the words to say. But if you practiced and then you worked on your vocab right after, not like after a month, after a week, oh I will come back. No, you did that right away. And this way you have at least one more word. If your memory is so bad, at least one more word you will remember.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Right. So here it is. Also, this will be important preparation for your writing task too, because the topics are getting serious. It's not speaking, and here we talk about production, money, income, and stuff. So it will be necessarily important for what for writing task two. Okay. Well, so this one I guess that's gonna be part of your homework. And now, well, I need to open it this way because the answer is already here. Let's take a look at this graph again. It's quite similar to what we worked with.
Are you demonstrating the graph? I can. Oh,
I am. Is it visible? Oh, low.
yeah. Now I can see. Sorry, accidentally.
Oh, okay. Right. So here I'm just demonstrating not the whole uh screen because there is an
Mhm.
explanation in here.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I got it.
Right. So you read these introduction options A, B, C, and then tell me which one is the best based on what you heard from me today.
Mm-hmm. Museum attendance, become Morrisville. Okay. It's the number of people. Так, the number of people who went to museum last year. The graph shows how many people attended museums in each of the 4 seasons of the year. The graph shows it in museum attendance. The changes. I guess the C one. The graph shows the changes.
Why C?
I don't know. I mean, for example, in other, I mean, in the A and B, it just said that like number of people, but actually it's not just the number of people, but they're like comparing them, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
comparing the amount of people who attended. So maybe changes, but the second option is also kind of like it consists of all of the necessary information.
Mm-hmm. And how about C?
Yeah. So I mean, in the option C, I just like the part that it says the changes in attendance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like it draws attention to the fact that I mean, like it's comparing the number of
Mm-hmm.
people who attended over a year. So
Right. So here I consider that, oh, there are some changes, so there must be also some timeline, right?
mm,
Even though I have no idea what the timeline is, right?
come again?
Uh-huh. Let's see, do I know what's my timeline? What's my period?
No, yeah, it doesn't say the
I have
year,
no
right?
idea, but there must be given in introduction. Yeah, it must be given because otherwise I have no idea. Like later on, look, in introduction you didn't mention that, and then you start writing your details and you say, okay, in spring, but how do I know? Why do you
Mm,
start about spring? Oh, there should be seasons. Ah, okay. So I will be confused because you didn't introduce that in the beginning.
uh-huh.
It's
It's
like
amazing.
to start saying some story. Oh,
Uh,
Jessica did blah. Who's the Jessica? Yeah. So and here first you say, okay, Jessica, the friend of mine, blah blah blah, and then you start talking. Here's the same thing.
mm. Yeah, then B, yeah.
Yeah.
It's always
B
the just B.
it's very long, but still it has all that information that we need. About that point about changes. Look, if I see that there are how many people
Yeah,
and I
see,
have
in
seasons.
each 4 seasons.
Yeah. So then I assume that there is a change.
Mhm.
But I think it's nice idea just to to blend these two, B and C. Like graph shows the changes in what?
Attendance, like
Attendance.
museum attendance, in each of the 4 seasons of the,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm. So this way it will be complete, right? Because you see, first doesn't give us even the information about the museums, right?
Mm-hmm.
It just no idea does it change or just there is a number and that's it.
Yeah, yes. Mm-hmm.
Maybe just museums in general, but I know there are two particular museums. There are categories, and you must introduce what are your categories. If you have five, you can say, okay, for five different activities, it's
Mm,
okay. If you mention number like this, it's okay. Five different activities because I know what are my categories and how many do I have.
mm-hmm.
Right. So here it is. Now, let's move on. Just a moment. Okay. And well, as for overview, here on the screen, you can see this is a typical overview that you may write. This is for our graph that we just discussed in the beginning of the lesson,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this is the way they organize it. Let's take a look. Mhm. As you can notice here, please take some time to read.
Overall, what stands out from the graph is that 3 were categorical upward trends in the income of both, that there was while the earnings saw a substantial fall over the period in question.
This way, we can see that they organize these two together, both.
Uh-huh.
So they don't have to say, okay, this one rose and this one rose. No,
Mm.
we just say, okay, these two come together. That's it. And we make a complex sentence out of it, saying while, and you make
Mm.
that contrast. Important thing at this point, we never write about something incompatible using while. For example, if you said, okay, there were considerable upward trends in blah 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 and blah blah blah, while Lovely Looks was the let's say was the baker with the lowest income. But then
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know what about cheese.
yeah. So like both of them, they need to be about the same thing, right?
Right. So you either say in one sentence you say about changes, like they increase, they decrease, or this one is top, these are bottoms, like
Mm.
that. It's not like okay, this one grows, but this one just at the top. But did it grow, or was it on the top, or what's going on, right? This is also a very common mistake in overview when we just write about very illogical things together in one sentence. Right. You better just full stop, make a full stop, and start a new sentence in this case if you would like to say about something else.
Mhm.
hmm Right. As for synonyms, like overall, it's a very typical word. You will see it everywhere, and it's actually okay to write it so that it signifies for your examiner. Okay, she started with overview.
Mhm.
hmm There is no conclusion, by the way, if you noticed. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
This one is like a conclusion, but we never say okay to conclude. No, overall or in general. Okay. But all other phrases can be also very easily paraphrased like here. What stands out? Because in overview you write about the most noticeable things. So you
Mhm.
can say it's the most noticeable thing is it can be noticed, witnessed, seen that, or it's obvious that, the most striking feature that, remarkable feature. hmm
Mhm.
This way. Right. As well, we said upward trends, but you can also say saw a substantial fall or experienced a
Mhm.
substantial fall. So different way. I'll drop it all that things into your notes,
Mhm.
group notes document, so you will open it if you need any other options. Right, and this one on the bottom of this page, there is an example of what other additional information you can add. So this one is the core info. You have to write about that in your overview. But the second one on the bottom, this is like optional. You can add about it, but you can also skip it.
You mean the like these two sentences, right? Like another interesting point
Yes.
is that Mhm.
But of course, it's good to write about it so that it will full picture of all
Uh,
noticeable things.
okay. I mean, is it possible to like write too many words in writing part one?
Yes, it's
Like,
possible if you have enough time to do that.
no, I mean, is it something good or
Ah,
isn't it
no.
something bad? Like,
Okay, no, it's not good. So look, recommended to write 150. You can write a
mm,
bit less, like 140, for example. It's not a big deal, but still, not recommended. Better to be around this 160, 170, fine. But if you go like beyond 200, you write too much. It means that most possibly um, you go too much into
yeah,
details or you write
yes.
just irrelevant things. hmm So keep it short,
Okay.
right? And also just you spend extra time usually on writing too much,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I guess that's it. As for your homework, there are two graphs here. They will be attached in your writing doc. So your homework will be so from now on in your writing person document.
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna write introduction and overview for these two graphs, and you will work with vocabulary. There will be a link, very useful one, and vocabulary task.
So the first homework is the introduction for these two graphs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the second one is the vocabulary work.
Vocabulary work. So basically, it's to learn the vocab related to introduction and overview. And look, why it's important not to skip this task because this is like a milestone. This is the core task for this week and for the whole writing part in general. If you stuck at this one, you will have problems later, like every lesson, basically. So that is why it's important not to skip it and give yourself time to work on it and learn.
Where is it gonna be? The link?
The presentation will be in your group notes document, group notes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the writing homework will be in your personal writing doc. So you go to your word list, you find, for example, Caroline writing. You click it,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
you find it, and you write the task there. Okay, do you have any questions to me?
Yeah, not yet, not yet. Okay, it's clear, I
All
guess.
right, good. So
Mm-hmm.
thank
Okay,
you for
thank you very
coming.
much. Thank
Mm-hmm.
you very much.
And
Okay,
see you.
see
Bye.
you. Bye bye.